Ladies and gentlemen, today is February 17th, 2014, and this is the KNKL Show, episode 165. I'm your host, Keenan Lafferty, and today is Emma Monday, where we like to jump into our beautiful comic from our brand new apartment in beautiful Pleasant Grove, Utah. Yes, that is right, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the new place, and I'm going to be talking to you today about the most recent page release of Amazon. And to do that, we're going to be going into one of my most favorite things to do on the show, a time lapse. So let's go ahead and get into that. Now, ideally, I would like to be able to show you guys my process from the very beginning, and that's what I'm going to be trying to do from now on. But today, you're just going to have to deal with me throwing in the lines and all that good stuff. And from now on, like I said, I'll try to get some more of my process done for you guys. I just don't like to time lapse myself when I'm doing like the sketches and stuff in the beginning, because I feel like it's like that weird feeling. I feel like someone's looking over my shoulder watching me draw. Have you ever had that happen? Where you can totally be working just fine, and then as soon as somebody just sticks their head over your shoulder, like, oh, what you working on? What you working on there? You just like freeze up and like, go away, and then you just totally freeze up. And that's how I feel when I'm time lapsing myself working on this stuff. But that is something that I want to get over, and I want to bring that to you guys. So in the meantime, let's just focus on this. Second part of the news, what I want to be talking about today, is I'm thankful that you guys were willing to be patient while I basically got all my stuff together, got all my crap together, moved it into this new amazing place. This apartment that we got is so awesome. It's going to make a great studio. Super excited to continue working on my freelance work as well as Amazon for you guys. And I just wanted to say thank you for being patient. So on that note, even though the apartment is pretty freaking awesome, it does come with its quirks. It does come with some things that are not quite so desirable. One of those being the internet, which is why I am actually pre-recording this and going to be releasing it on YouTube, and then you guys are going to be joining me live at the usual show time, which is 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, where we'll be doing sort of a Q&A type thing. Okay, and I feel like I'm talking mostly about the show and not enough about the time-lapse, but if you just want to watch it, you can just cover up this frame right here, and you can just mute my freaking flapping gums, and then you can put on some of your own awesome drum and bass music while you listen to this. It actually go very well. Drum and bass music always seems to go really well with time-lapses. So yes, like I was saying, the internet here sucks a big old donkey, and we are going to have to look into some alternatives. And those alternatives are going to be coming in later this week. So today's show is going to be filmed in this format, and tomorrow's tutorial may also be as well. And I don't know, it's kind of up in the air, like what's going to happen this whole entire week. But the point is, the KNKL show is back. I am back. I'm doing my thing. I'm meeting with you guys, and we're still doing the live show, or a live Q&A session at the usual time. It's just going to be really low quality. It's going to look like crap. But hey, maybe it'll be fun. Maybe it'll be fun. It'll be like paper vision. Me like talking, and I'm like, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So anyway, let's talk about this. Let's talk about what I'm doing over here. This page ended up being really, really awesome, and also very challenging, because I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there's 11 freaking panels on this. Like, this is probably the most panels I've been able to cram onto one page since I started the freaking comic. And the reason why I wanted to basically get all this content on there is because those of you who know my friend Colton, he has been helping me out with a lot of, he's like my editor. He's becoming very quickly my editor. And I want to go ahead and show you guys, I'm going to go ahead and take away all this stuff. I want to show you guys the actual sketch that we came up with in the beginning, because most of you know the way that I like to work. This is how the comic gets started, right here. See, so we had the panels going on, we had the idea, it's like, oh, hey, well, Emma's going to be all cute, she'd be like, okay, I'm going to get changed now, so get out, right? And then her eyes would get all small and kind of pissed off looking, right? And then it would return back to the normal face. And then we have the whole conversation going on right through here. And this was something that I subconsciously wanted Nico to kind of like be in on the secret, or be in on, like, he notices what's happening with Emma. He notices that her eyes are like big and she's all happy, you know, some of the time, and then sometimes her eyes get really small and she gets really ticked off. So I really wanted to eventually show that part in the comic where he basically like straight up calls her out and he's like, hey, what was that thing you just did? What was that? Right? And because I figured, once the character in the comic knows it, everybody has to know it. And this is a challenge that I'm actually going to be going back and fixing up, because I feel like in the beginning of the comic, the whole idea of Emma having these two phases and these two sides of her personality wasn't necessarily being conveyed in a clear way. Because as I've said before, it's like when you're working on the comic and you're staring at this page and staring at the panels for hours and hours and hours, and you know the backstory, right? You know the backstory. It's so easy for you to overlook things and say, oh no, people will get it, right? They'll get that she's got this split personality thing. She sees the world in two different ways. They'll get that, right? But then it comes out and it's not clear. You got your friends. I bring my friends over and they're like, oh, like halfway into issue 2, they're like, oh, is something like going on with like the parallel universe or something like that? She's seeing the world differently than it really is. And I was like, yes, that's what's been happening since the very beginning. So I'm going to be going back because, as you know, I want to eventually begin printing these comics. And I want to go back and I want to clean up and kind of fix up a couple of the panels as well as backgrounds and all that stuff. Just to clarify, the main bits, the main meaty bits of the story. I don't want people to miss that. And I feel like I could have done that a lot better from the beginning. So before we go into print, we will be taking a trip back in time. We'll be fixing up. Well, we will literally be stepping back in time. I'll slap myself across the face and I'll say, Keenan, no, this is the way you're supposed to do the panels. And I will sit down. I will push my past self out of the way, sit in the chair, and I'll fix those panels. So that way, it was like it never happened, right? And then they will magically update. You'll know that I did this because then the panels will magically update on the website, and then you will be like, yes, Keenan's time travel expedition was a success because those panels have now been changed. And then your minds will be subsequently wiped out because you won't remember that. So, anyway, so this page ended up being a lot of fun. Oh, speaking of some interesting things, I'll talk a little bit, like once the time lapse is done, I'm going to go through each of the panels and just talk a little bit about the challenges and a couple of things, a couple of new things that I wanted to try with this. And as I'm sure you guys have noticed, as of late, some of the panels, some of the layouts, and just things that I've been doing with the comic, I've been taking some chances and trying some new things that may work well, may not work as well as I would have hoped. But the point is that Emma was created, this comic was created to take some chances. Like, let's take some risks and do some crazy stuff. And if it doesn't work out, heaven forbid, we can always just go back and we can change things. We can always go back and change things. That's the glory and the awesomeness of the webcomic. You can create it, send it out for free for everybody to read. All of your viewers and just your friends and everybody, they become the editors. And then when they give you all that feedback, you pick what you like most about it, the things that really resonate with you, that make you say, yes, I do want to go back and fix this. And you go back and fix it. And then you release it, and it's like a perfectly edited comic. Perfectly edited comic, and you didn't have to pay an editor. I love it. All right. So, and today's daily is going to be a little bit shorter because it's just the time lapse. In fact, I'm actually thinking about doing Mondays like this from now on. So let me know how you guys feel about that. Just put a comment down in YouTubers, and all that good stuff. And let's talk a little bit about the art. Okay, so one of the challenges, or one of the things that I wanted to do right off the bat was I wanted to show Emma kind of quickly go into this thing, right, with her eyes all small and ticked off, and then go right back. Go right back to this panel right here, where she's all happy and cute looking. And originally I had this panel and this panel, they were dividing the page. So this one was a little bit bigger and it came right to the center, and then this one with the big eyes, it was over to the side. It was over to the right side. And I don't know if it's just something that I felt subconsciously or just like, I don't know, it's like my intuition, my artist intuition was telling me, no, like this is a very powerful panel. This has to be a very powerful panel, and it must like stretch, you know, to the edges of what a panel should be, right? And then I'll just make these other two small panels. And this ended up working out really well because I always liked the idea of almost seeing, when you look at this panel and then you jump to this one, it's almost like an animation that's happening in your head. So this shot right here is with Emma far away, and she's all kind of small and tiny on the page. And then you get this huge like panel is like zoomed in on her eyes, and the colors are all bright red, and everything's just like really jarring about it. And it goes right back to where it was. So you get this really cool animation effect, like going right through here. This is what I was hoping to achieve. But yeah, I felt like I pulled it off pretty well. And then the second challenge, moving on into this whole, I'll actually just put up these bubbles, because this is probably one of the wordiest pages that I put up in a while too. And originally, again, like I said, I wanted a scene kind of like this to happen, but then Colton kind of approached me and he's like, hey, we should do this scene. We should have Nico totally call out Emma on that she's acting weird, right? And I was like, yeah, yeah. And then he just basically like spouted off this entire conversation right here. And I was like, dude, that's so freaking awesome. Like, this is perfect. This is exactly what needs to go into the comic. And I was like, oh, but wait, how am I going to do this? Like, am I just going to do like one big panel and then like kind of have like the overlapping, you know, bubbles kind of going down the side? You know, I'm sure you've seen comics that do that, where it's just one panel and then it's like bubble, 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 all the way down the page, and then just like the little tail going back to the character. I did think about that, but I don't know. Like, even though this was more work, like literally hand drawing each individual character, like what they're doing, I thought it was important to do it this way because A, I really wanted to show the transition of Nico being like this at first, and then he's kind of like, you notice how his body language like changes. He's like leaning forward now, and he's like progressively getting more aggressive with what he's saying. And I think that, again, it's really cool to see that. You might just pick it up subconsciously, but I really feel like when I've seen comics that do this, where they pull out or they kind of slow down the interactions and redraw the characters' faces with what they're saying, I feel like it really heightens that immersion, and it really helps you to feel like these characters are alive, and these are literal like snapshots of when they're saying that exact phrase, as opposed to, you know, like Nico standing like this with his arms folded, and then Emma over here, you know, with the clothes, and she's like, huh, right? And it's like just that same picture, and then just bubble, 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 bubble. You know, it doesn't work the same way. And it just gave me more of a chance to, you know, draw Emma too. And I've really been enjoying the way that she's looking as of late. Originally, I was like, no, I don't want to draw with the big eyes, but I don't know. I guess it just got to me. It got to me. The big eyes are cute. Can't argue that. And it also really helps with the contrast going from here to here. So I think that's another reason why I decided to do that. And it kind of reminds me of like the old 1950s cartoons, like putting the little Pac-Man, you know, cutout in it. So at first, I didn't like it, but now I think I'm starting to love it. So, okay, so as we wrap this up, I'm going to talk about these last few panels here. So again, playing up contrast, Originally, the background of this right here, of this shot of Emma, is going to be like a pink background. There's going to be almost like a blown out white light with pink gradient on it. And that transition from pink to red, it wasn't a high enough contrast, right? Because I really wanted to, again, every time she switches her states, I want to make sure that everything is contrasting as much as possible. So that's why I was like, okay, let's go back to that blue. I mean, that's actually what the room color is. The room color is blue. So when we go from blue to red, and flames, of course, then it really helps to sell the idea that a major change is happening. Okay, and then the last thing that I did here is actually, well, there's a couple things happening in this panel specifically. And this is where I'm talking about taking risks, taking chances, and trying something different. And what I did here is a very, very anime sort of thing to do, where the character is doing some sort of, they're yelling or something, and their head just gets really big, right? It's not like the chibi thing where she gets like the domo face with the triangle teeth. You know, sometimes they do that too, and like the circle eyes. I didn't want to go quite that far, but I like the feeling that this type of shot in an anime does, where the character's face gets really big, and you know the fire turns to, or the background turns to fire or something, and then the other character that's being yelled at just shrinks down and gets really small. And I wanted to try that, and I think that it gave me an awesome effect, and it gave me an effect that I was looking for, and I actually think I liked it a lot. And these kinds of things are what I want to continue experimenting with as we go further into the comic. Just like different things that, it's almost like, it's one of those things that it doesn't look right. It doesn't look realistic, right? This would not happen in real life, a person's head just like getting massively big. But it feels right. It's not about how it looks, it's about how it feels. And so that was why I really liked, and I felt that this panel was a success. And I also turned it a little bit because originally it was like straight with this one, but then I kind of took it and tilted it a little bit. And that also helps quite a bit to kind of pop it off the page. And then of course we got Nico sitting next to Hank. This is Hank. Hank is the drunkard. The drunkard who's supposed to be guarding the hall monitor, drunk hall monitor. And Nico's outside the door, just kind of chilling with him now. But I'm really enjoying drawing these characters. Like, I love experimenting with their expressions, and I feel like I'm starting to get more comfortable with drawing specifically Nico's face. Nico has always been, he's been a challenge since the beginning, just like really trying to figure out the rules. And you know, the best way that I can relate this is when I was young, I used to draw all these pictures of Taz, you know, the Tasmanian Devil from Looney Tunes. I used to draw all these pictures of Taz. And I remember, like, any day of the week, I didn't have to have a picture of Taz. I would just be sitting in the class, right? Sitting in my classroom, you know, in 3rd grade or whatever. And I could literally just draw pictures of Taz over and over and over again in different expressions, different poses, different everything. And it's just because I had the thing, you know, how to draw him in my mind. And even though these are my characters, I still have to, like, figure out those. I need to get comfortable with drawing them, you know, over and over and over again. Figuring out the rules, making sure their heads don't look too big, their eyes don't look too big, you know, because there's a lot of subtleties that go into making your characters look believable, as well as just making sure that their expressions, you're able to exaggerate them without making their faces completely distorted beyond recognition. Alrighty, people. So, I hope that was a fun, pre-recorded time-lapse daily for you guys. Again, I do apologize, and I want to thank you for being patient while I get all my stuff together, get my stuff set up in the new place. We're going to be returning to the normal live stream, hopefully. I'm hoping very soon. But even the worst case scenario, I still would figure out a way to do a live show, even if it's just a Q&A, and I would do pre-recorded shows like this, release them to YouTube, and you guys will get your fix, and I'll get mine. So, thank you guys once again for joining me. Oh man, I was about to say live. On YouTube. Thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. Click Patreon if you want to get some cool stuff from Emma. Right now, I'm actually giving away... where is it? Here we go. Right now, we're going for... I think we're at like $350, which is freaking awesome. And once we get to $450 on Patreon, right there, I'm going to be sending out these prints to everybody who helps me get there, even if you only pledge $1. It costs me like $3 to send these out to you, especially if you live in another country or state. So yeah, just $1 will get you this if you want it. Anyway, you guys take care. I'll see you on the live Q&A at the usual time, 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Until then, you guys take care.